Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 14th ever Highlight Haven interview. My name is Matthew Heiserman, and today we are joined by a very special guest. He is the host of the Bram Weinstein Show, as well as being the play by play announcer for both the Washington Commanders and Washington Spirit. Let me welcome Bram Weinstein to the show. It's great to have you on.
Hi, Matthew. How are you?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. We're 3-1. I'm really good.
Yeah, I mean, let's get right into it. I just want to start by asking how you got so into broadcasting to begin with.
Probably like you, I wanted to do it at a very young age. I used to sit in front of the television and pretend I was the play-by-play broadcaster for all the teams. I just loved sports. I knew I wasn't athletic enough to really have much of a career. I played a lot of sports, but I kind of knew I wasn't good at most of them. I just kind of enjoyed it, and I just loved it. And so I started writing and just kind of doing anything I could in high school and then into college to get internships and just to be around it. I always knew what I wanted to do. I think I'm very lucky that way. When I was young, I wanted to do this for a living.
Yeah, obviously, same thing here. And of course, when I watch your clips in the booth, I notice how you look through binoculars when calling the games. Now, tell me, is that just how you can really focus on the small details happening on the field?
Yes. Well, so number one, every stadium's different. So I don't know, with the exception obviously of our stadium, I don't know where they're going to locate us. So sometimes we're in pretty tough positions. Like in Arizona last week, we were in like one of the far corners of the end zone up, like above a club section. So it's pretty far away from all the action that's on the other side of the field. And I need to be precise. So I bring the binoculars for a lot of reasons, and I've just gotten used to calling, the game through it. It's I can see the blocking patterns better. I can see how close someone's getting to our quarterback or whatever it may be. I can catch the numbers better for someone who's, being tackled. So I need to be very precise, and therefore I use the binoculars, but in specific ways. I'm looking for very specific things, and then secondarily, like in between plays. I can scan the sidelines, see if there's an injured player, if one coach is talking to another player or not. It's just a way of kind of getting a really close up view. Like, remember, the TV cameras are on, but they're behind, they're delayed. So I'm not seeing it in real time. So I use the binoculars as, a way to be just precise.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, as the Commander's play-by-play announcer, of course, you've gotten to share the booth with people such as Logan Paulson and London Fletcher. Can you describe the relationship you've been able to build with them over time?
Yeah, it's really cool. Like I actually covered them when they were players when I was just a reporter of the team. So it's really cool to actually literally work with them now. London had a lot of experience working in television beforehand. So this was kind of very natural for him to move into a position of working in the booth. And for Logan, like media is still kind of a new thing for him, but he's gotten really, really good at it. And I would even argue that he's like the best film game analyst that we have locally. Like he's just outstanding at really explaining what we see, and I learned from them, like my job is to tell the story and what I call keep the trains on time, which is get us in and out of breaks smoothly, explain what's happening, hopefully, share my, enthusiasm and energy for the plays as they happen. But describing what's happened, that's kind of up to them. So, like, I work very closely with them for them to tell me what do they expect to see, and then and from there we can kind of tell the story of the game through their eyes. It's very important that I think the fans get to hear their perspective, so we work very closely together, and it's a privilege because I learn a lot more from them than they'll ever learn from me.
Yeah, now, of course, as you mentioned, both Paulson and Fletcher played in the NFL for the Redskins. How have you been able to benefit from getting to call games with someone who has experience not only as a broadcaster but also as a player?
Yeah, I think it's important. Like these guys, because they played here, kind of understand our fan base and understand our history. I think it'd be different if you get someone who doesn't know that. Like, there's plenty of great players that could probably do it, but understanding our fan base and understanding what's been the ups and downs of the franchise, I think is very important for context for them. I grew up here. I've been just a fan of this team forever since I can remember. I've watched every play that they've run since I was a kid, and I just have a tremendous amount of context of it. So having people there next to me that know what the community and how they feel about the team, I think is important.
Yeah, and would you say it also just helps them, of course, have a better understanding of what's happening on the field, what's going through the players' minds, like that?
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, like so that's why I said like I'll learn a lot more from them than they'll ever learn from me because they'll be able to explain situations that they've been a part of that might be what I'm seeing there. And oftentimes, I have a media background and I just have my feelings of what I see. Sometimes their real life experience it can put things into context better than any way I could either describe it or whatever I may think that I'm seeing out on the field.
Yeah, now I want to go more to just some recent NFL news. Of course, there has recently been a lot of rumors surrounding Devontae Adams wanting out of Las Vegas. Some teams that are mainly targeting him include the Jets and Saints. Do you think Washington would potentially go after Adams as well?
I don't think so. I don't know, but I don't think so. I think it would be a little out of character from what they've done so far. They haven't given up assets or spent a lot of money on any particular player yet. So I would be surprised if they were to do that at his age, too, and how much money that he's owed. I would be surprised if they were to do it. Now, the one thing that, like, doesn't make me say 100% they wouldn't is are they exceeding their own internal expectations of how this team this year can do? And if they are, then maybe they rethink something like that. But my gut tells me he's going to end up on either the Jets, the Saints, or the Ravens. That's what I think.
Yeah, of course, he posted that picture of Edgar Allan Poe earlier today.
Yeah.
Now, so you don't think it will happen? Say it does. I do want to highlight a post that was made by JP Finley on X the other day, where he stated Devonte Adams is a fantastic player, but giving up assets in an already humming offense isn't for me. What are your thoughts on that statement?
I don't feel that way. I feel like an upgrade at a position is an upgrade at a position. I do think, what is the price to pay to get him? Um, you know, in terms of cap room here and now and into the future, more into the future, his age and timed up for how long he would actually be here. Because if you're going to give something up like that, I think you better think you're going to win now or very, very soon. So from that perspective, I agree with him that I'm not sure I'm ready for that, but I am all for upgrading in talent across the board at any position. And there is no doubt in my mind that he would be a massive upgrade in talent for this team if they were to go that direction. But I don't think it's timed up right. And I don't know, but I don't think that it really falls in line with the direction they're trying to take this team short term and long term.
Yeah, now moving over to Jaden Daniels, of course, he has had a historic start to his NFL career, to say the least, highlighted by a completion percentage of 82.1, which is the highest out of any quarterback through 4 games in NFL history. What would you say? Of course, there's so much to choose from, but what would you say has impressed you the most when it comes to Daniels?
He has never looked like a rookie at any point in time. He doesn't carry himself like one, doesn't practice like one, obviously doesn't play like one. And right now, he is having, and I don't even think it's an argument, the greatest rookie season any quarterback's ever had. Now, it's only 4 games, a long way to go, but if he keeps up this kind of pace, which is practically impossible and would be historically unprecedented, then that's what they're going to say about him. And in fact, they might even call him the MVP by the end of the year, which would be practically unprecedented. Um, I could not be more impressed by everything he does every single day. He is so far ahead of the curve. And I want to repeat the stat that you cited. He has the highest completion percentage of any quarterback ever in any 4 game stretch of any season ever. And he's played 4 games. That is almost unbelievable. And there is not a week that goes by the last month where I'm not citing things from not since 1983, not since 1991, not since World War II. The amount of historic benchmarks he is setting in this part of his career gives me so much hope that not only do we have our franchise quarterback, but we're going to be really good for a long time as long as he's here.
Yeah, and of course, not just Daniels, but there was a stat: the offense went 16 drives without having to punt the ball. Just another amazing achievement. Now, I do want to stay on the topic of Daniels for now. Of course, when we drafted Robert Griffin III, he was expected to be the next big thing. Dealt with injuries that didn't end up happening. Would you compare Daniels to a Robert Griffin III, or do you think what you've seen from Daniel so far has elevated?
I think they're different players. Like I think Robert was an extraordinary running quarterback, and that was really a massive skill set that he has. Daniels has it too, but Robert was could have been a track star. So he had a type of speed that very few have, but he was not as accomplished a passer as Daniels is. So Daniels seems to be looking to throw the ball first, go through his reads, run if he has to. And so I think they're kind of very different players, both extremely athletic people, both of them. But I think their skill sets are a little bit different. Robert unfortunately got hurt, and I don't know how he would have developed as a passer had he not gotten hurt. Um, but this is different. We're starting from a place where Daniels is really looking to throw first and run second, but he's very capable of running if he has to. Maybe not like Griffin, but not that far off from it.
Yeah, now moving over to the defense, I think it's safe to say that this past game against Arizona was the best Washington's defensive line has performed all season. What did you see from this defense last week that showed improvement from where they were week one against the Buccaneers?
They did not have a lot of missed assignments. That was really good. That was a really good sign. I think the aggressiveness that they're talking about that they want to be, which I've seen on offensive special teams, was first kind of indications of that this past week. There were a couple of moments where Kyler Murray looked confused. I haven't seen a confused quarterback through the first few games, but in this particular case, it seems that they threw him for a loop a couple times. That was nice to see. So they're disguising better than they did, and they got some like best games from Jeremy Chin, best game from Dorrance Armstrong. So I think things are coming around. If I had to guess this season, I would have thought the defense would have been ahead of the offense and not the other way around. But here we are. And it's just a good sign that the defense will get better. I firmly believe their run defense is going to improve as we go along. I think they just have too many good players up the middle not to. It's their pass defense that I'm concerned about long term. But last week was a very, very, very good sign that it's coming around altogether. And this will be an interesting test this week. Cleveland's offense is struggling really, really, really poor. They're really poor, playing very poorly in a lot of ways over the last couple of weeks. And we'll see if Washington can build on some momentum taking on an offense that really is in its own way right now.
Yeah, now, from what you've seen so far this season, what position do you think the Commanders might be targeting in round one of the 2025 NFL draft?
I would think corner, depending where they're selecting. There are a couple of really prominent, great ones that are out there. The Michigan corner, Travis Hunter, of course, out of Colorado. So there seems to be some prominent prospects there. And I do think it's probably the biggest weakness that they have that obviously needs to be addressed. I would have thought maybe offensive line at the beginning of the season, but Brandon Coleman has changed my mind about that. So right now, I'd say corner is probably the biggest need.
Yeah, now you look at the cornerback room, you have guys like Emmanuel Forbes, Mike Vanstro, Quan Martin, all young guys. Do you expect them to really progress in big ways in the upcoming seasons?
I do. I think like with Samra still, it's interesting. Like he really, I think he's best as a slot corner, but because of injuries and because of how the team's performing in general, they've had him play on the outside more. And I don't think long term that that's what they want to do with him. I think they would like him to be a slot corner. So they need to get healthy and they need a little better production on the outside. I like Benjamin St. Juice. I think like as a number 2, 3 corner, he can be a very good player for them. Emmanuel Forbes, I'm open to seeing improvement, but I'm concerned about. And I just think depth wise, they need a corner, and I think they need a clear what would be number one corner, and that's why I think that's where the target will be.
Yeah, now looking at that wide receiver room, of course, McLaurin struggled to start the season, has been doing a lot better since, but he's about 30 years old right now. So he's obviously getting up there in age. Diame Brown, I don't know if he's taken the steps that I thought he was going to. this season. Do you think that could be another position that they target at wide receiver?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. Like it probably will depend where they're picking and, who are the players that are available for sure. And we're a long way away from that. But yes, another prominent receiver seems like a target probably early in the draft. I do know that I like what I see from Luke McCaffrey as he kind of develops here. So they did use a high draft pick on a receiver this past year. And the veterans that they have, they're very high on as complementary players. But could they use another playmaking receiver? Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, so of course the Commanders will be at home this week taking on the Cleveland Browns, which you already mentioned. Should be a very winnable game for Washington. What would you say are the keys for to victory for the Commanders in this matchup?
First downs on both sides of the ball. With Washington, I think some of the efficiency that Washington has had on offense has to do with what I think is very creative play calling and drive starting by Cliff Kingsbury and execution, obviously, by the team. So they've gotten themselves into a lot of second and five, second and six, and they're performing really well there. It gives them a lot of opportunities to kind of open the playbook and do whatever they want. And if it doesn't work out, well, they've always got Jaden Daniels available to scramble and run to get a few yards or maybe a first down. It's when they're in second and long that they get in trouble, and that's actually been rare. If you watch Cleveland on the other side, this has been their biggest problem. I don't see a lot of creativity out of their offense. They don't have Nick Chubb right now, so when they do run, they're not getting the same. They're not getting the same yardage on first down. They're finding themselves in a lot of second and longs. They have a very beat up offensive line. Deshaun Watson is the most pressured and most sacked quarterback through the first month of the season. If Washington can continue that kind of script where Cleveland is in second and long, I like our chances. And at the same time, if Washington is in second and moderate, second and five, I like our chances there too. So I think first down on both sides of the ball is going to have a lot to do with the outcomes of this game on Sunday.
Yeah, and of course, throughout your career, you've gotten to cover so many awesome games and make so many countless amazing calls. While there is so many to choose from, what would you say has been your favorite ever call that you've made as a Commanders broadcaster?
Well, it's two because I've gotten to call only one playoff game, and I'm hoping that's going to change this year. But Taylor Heineke diving for the pylon in a playoff game against the Buccaneers 4 years ago now, and scoring was my favorite until the Monday night game against Cincinnati when Jaden Daniels hit Terry McLaurin on that 27-yard touchdown pass that kind of sealed that game, and really feels like the moment that I think everyone kind of realized that there's something special going on here. And I don't think I'll ever forget it. It was just so amazing. And that call has gotten around on the internet a lot over the last couple of weeks. And I'm very proud of it.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that call. It's just an amazing, super exciting call. Of course, Logan Paulson laughing after the play.
Yeah.
That's just an amazing moment. Now, I do have one final question to ask. If there was one piece of advice you could give to an aspiring sports broadcaster and journalist like me, what would it be?
Two things. One, you're already doing it. You're doing it, which is I think is like the most important thing. I get a lot of people who ask me about this, and I tell them, there's no barrier to entry. You could start your own blog. You could start your own podcast. You could start your own video blog. You could do all these things, and you're doing it. So it's half the battle is that when you say you want to do something, well, I could say there's a lot of things I want to do, but you have to go do it. And you are, and there's no substitution for repetition and watching the people you like and learning from them and implementing them in your own way. The second thing I would say is the key to sports media or really any media, the basis is writing. And there are very different forms of it dependent on what kind of writing you're doing, whether it's for a publication or for a screenplay or for broadcasting or for a radio show or for anchoring Sports Center. They're all very different, but it does come down to can you succinctly write in your own voice that's organic to yourself to tell a compelling story? And from there, you'll learn how to deliver it if you're going to do it like a broadcaster, like we're doing this right now. And you'll learn how to do it if it's in print by using your voice that way. But writing's the basis of all of it. And to never be shy to share your work with people that you admire or like. And oftentimes I found in this industry, we're all willing to help, and especially we want to help young people who want to get into it. So I wouldn't be shy, share it, take feedback. Don't be, don't, like allow yourself to be criticized on some level for your work. And if you are willing to do all of those things, there's an opportunity for you. Like this is a brand new, it's a different world than when I was your age. Like there was no internet. Like there were just a few places you could go to do what I'm doing right now. For you, the world is very open, and I appreciate that you've opened the door for yourself and you're doing it on your own.
Yeah, I mean, with that being said, I can't thank you enough for coming on. I really do appreciate it. Is there anything else you want to say to the people watching before we wrap things up?
You know what? I think it's time to believe in the Commanders. I don't think this is a fluke. So I'm hoping I'm right about that. But I've seen a lot of football here and a lot of seasons go the wrong way. This feels very different. So I hope everybody's on board with it. And it was a pleasure meeting you. And thank you for having me on your show.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, big thanks to Bram Weinstein for being the 14th ever Highlight Haven interview guest. And as always, we'll see you next time.